Thank you for joining us for another episode of Destination Durham, a TV show that highlights the community spirit of the town of Durham, linking our past, exploring our future. Tonight we'll be talking about the Coginchaug Valley Education Foundation, what it does and how it helps different groups and organizations throughout the community. First, let's take a look at CVEF's history.
The Coginchaug Valley Education Foundation has worked to make dreams a reality for members of the Durham and Middlefield community.
We want an opportunity to enrich our community in ways that wouldn't be available otherwise, and we'd like to do this for everybody, not just for the schools.
The brainchild of Merrill Adams, CVEF got its start back in 2008 as a way to fund community programs that would bring the community together.
And we're looking for ideas that are creative and that haven't been done before, that would have a significant impact on any of our citizens, school kids as well as adults.
Every year, CVEF helps to fund nonprofit organizations and special projects aimed at lifelong learning. Throughout the year, Coginchaug Valley Education Foundation raises money with the help of donors, as well as through fundraisers like the Trivia and Spelling Bees held every year.
Thanks, Laura. And joining us tonight is CVEF President Betsy Booz and Nancy Earls, who's in charge of the grants. Thank you both for joining us tonight and being on Destination Durham and giving us our grants so we can continue to do programming like this. So thank you very much. So how did CVEF recognize the need for an organization like itself in the community?
Well, I think largely because of Merrill Adams, who was our founder. She is a retired teacher and a member of the Board of Education, and she just has really a passion about education in the community. And she brought a group of sort of like-minded people together, and we sort of came up with the charge of CVEF. The thing that makes us a little different, actually a lot different from most other education foundations, is that we do have a commitment to lifelong learning in the community, whereas many other education foundations support the public school systems. We take a look at a vast array of educational opportunities and enrichment efforts that people would like to pursue, and try to look at it in a more holistic approach.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Was there a catalyst that brought this to fruition? Was there a specific event or circumstance?
I don't think a specific circumstance. As I said, there is a state consortium of education foundations for Connecticut, and Merrill on her own got sort of tuned into them, and they actually helped us a lot. We're a member of the state consortium, and they helped us a lot in terms of giving us a foundation, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They helped us, with our structure, with our form, and that kind of thing, and then we took it from there. And it has been 8 years, and we've changed a little bit over the years, re-looked at our focus, not to lifelong education, but the kinds of things that we concentrate on, one of which is, and really our foundation, is our grants program that Nancy heads that committee.
And I think, just to add, I think Merrill and we all see the communities of Durham and Middlefield as opportunities of people who honor learning. Our school systems are great. And our graduates do well, and we thought this would be a prime place to do something like this, and it would be welcomed, and it has been. That's been our experience so far.
Right. And overall, how many programs has your organization sponsored?
Well, we've funded about 50 grants, and totaling about $75,000. We're entering into our 8th grant cycle. And then in addition to grants, we do have other programs that we run in the community, such as Talk of the Towns, which I believe we're going to touch a little bit upon later. And we also get involved in other community efforts. For example, we participated in Relay for Life last year when Durham initiated that. So, but I think grants are something that we provide, that there isn't any other similar organization that offers that opportunity.
Now, what was special about the organization that you two wanted to become a part of it?
Well, I think I'm going to let Nancy is a teacher, so we'll let her start.
Merrill approached me. I was not one of the founding mothers, fathers, but Merrill approached me and asked if I would be like a liaison to the schools, because I do teach at Strong Middle School.
Yes.
And they needed somebody who would be a liaison to the school system. And I said, you know, I don't know, I'm really, really busy. Tell me more about it. And the more she talked, of course, she knew. she knew she would hook me. So I kind of jumped in, and I wasn't really, I think, you know, I walked into the first meeting, and there were just active, engaged, compassionate people.
Mm-hmm.
And that liaison thing kind of went by the side.
And then we made her a board member.
All of a sudden, I was the coordinator of the grants program, and so, you know, I never look back. It's very exciting. It's fun to work with people who are so committed to this, and we often talk. You know, we all have busy lives, and then sometimes it gets to be. We have to juggle schedules and such, but every person on the board, I think, is committed to this mission.
We currently have 14 board members, and then we have committee members. And over the years, again, we've sort of fine-tuned the way that we work. We've had facilitators to help us. We've had brainstorming sessions, that kind of thing, to sort of figure out what the best structure was for us. So we have strong board member structure, and then we have strong committee structure that feeds into the board and, you know, keeps our activities and everything going.
Now, how often do you meet to bring all of your ideas and grant processes together?
As a board, we meet every other month, unless otherwise needed. And then within that time, and that's the restructuring has been really helpful with a small group of people. We have all the committees report in and sort of talk to each other in between and meet in between, and then the board sort of hears those things, and if there's anything that has to be brought before the large board, then we have an executive board as well. We have officers. So the board meetings are now very efficient, and their reports and tweaking anything and asking the board for any advice of anything, then the committees go back and do their work.
Now, you've talked about restructuring and changes. What has changed, or how has the organization developed and grown since its inception 8 years ago?
Well,
specifically?
At the beginning, as I mentioned, at the beginning, we really got a lot of our sort of program ideas and structure ideas from looking at other education foundations. And we always knew that as I said, we always knew that the foundation would be giving of grants. But we also, you know, experimented, I would say, with some needs in the community to provide some workshops, to provide, you know, some kinds of programs that initially we had a spelling bee, now we've changed to a trivia bee, so we try to address the needs of the community. And one of the first things that Nancy actually helped with when she joined the board was we did focus groups. And we did a lot of work on those focus groups. We did them by ages. We had a lot of, you know, flow charts, flip charts, everything else to try to hone in on, you know, sort of what the community needed that we could provide that wasn't being provided elsewhere. And I think there's been a level of understanding that we've, you know, tried to grow, that we are a private not-for-profit. We're not, and some people, you know, that's an understanding that you have to, you know, sort of teach people, and also that while we do provide grants to the district and to the schools in the district, we also provide grants to, as you said in your opening piece, to libraries, to, you know, various organizations and that kind of thing.
Individuals as well.
Individuals. It's just a sort of a wide range. And when we think about education, we think about education sort of in the broadest terms.
Right, not just related to the school district or
I mean,
schools.
And just one other thing, I would say one of our founders was Howard Kelly, who was an educator in the community and the first superintendent when the district was regionalized. And it was really interesting as a founding member, you know, when Howard sat down and we were all talking about, you know, what we were going to look like and that kind of thing. He was so passionate about the idea of lifelong education, and this from a man who, you know, made his professional career in public school education.
Right, right. So sometimes it's difficult for civic organizations to get their volunteers. How do you keep your members interested?
It's not hard.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if you're like you know, point of fact. I mean, Nancy is still a teacher in the district, but you know, my kids are, you know, 28 and 31, and you know, if you believe in sort of the importance of education and the importance of volunteering and the importance of, you know, supporting your community, we all sort of share that vision. So it's not really that hard.
And I think part of the restructuring is that we try people out in the committees. We don't try them out, but they work on a committee and they have a specific task, and then they see the organization and they meet the people, and then we invite them sometimes to be on the board. So we have grown from, I think we had 10 members, we have 14 active members now, and our committees tend to be 6, 7, 8, 9 people. And we all know different groups of people. So in a lot of boards, our board is very active. I know a lot of people who are on boards, and often you're on a board, but your name is on there, and you're not necessarily immersed in the day-to-day workings. But all of the board members are very
active,
very involved, and involved almost sometimes on a weekly basis if a project is coming up. And one of the things I wanted to add is we set aside time for brainstorming. We're always trying to grow, and every year we have either a retreat or a meeting, or a large part of a meeting, and people come with their ideas. And so we always wanted, so the Talk of the Towns was one of those ideas, and we talked about it. It bubbled up. We put it on the shelf. And then we talked together, and we finally said, "Listen, we've been talking about this for a year. It's still here. Let's move on it." So we made a little subcommittee, and that's been a really exciting event that's had sold out. You have to standing room only crowds.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
right.
That's great. So one of the groups CVEF helped fund is the Coginchaug Community Band, or what started out as the Coginchaug New Horizons Band. It's certainly changed over the past few years. Let's take a look back at a report we did just after the group came together for the first time back in 2013.
It's a band for adults who either never played or played in school and want to get back into it.
Most of us played musical instruments in high school. For me, that was 50-some years ago. So we just picked it up from June and came on with it. I just like music. I've been singing in church choirs for years, and played the tuba in high school, and I had an old tuba, so I just dug it out and brought it in.
So you just dusted it off and jumped right in?
Yeah, right.
We got support from New Horizons organization. It's an international organization now. You'll find these bands everywhere from Durham to Indonesia.
For a group of people from the community who came together for the first time, that have only practiced for not a very long time, they really pulled off a great concert. It was really fun.
And that was our Coginchaug Valley Education Foundation New Horizons Band. And the band has gone through some changes. So Betsy, why don't you tell us about some of the changes that the band has gone through since that started a few years ago?
Actually, it's a great story, because when they applied for the grant, the New Horizons Band is actually a national sort of program for adult bands, people who are over the age of 50 and want to get involved in a band again. And so when Tim Fisher. When Tim Fisher applied for the grant, he based it on that model. And what he found was after a year, he was having a hard time recruiting enough people over the age of 50. And so he asked us if he could, keep pursuing it. He dropped the age limit to basically an adult band. And it is now the Coginchaug Adult Band. Yes, right. Doesn't have any affiliation with New Horizons anymore. Self-sustaining, and it's been great. They give 2 concerts a year, one at Christmas and one in the spring. I went to the Christmas concert, and it just provides such a great opportunity for people who played an instrument maybe in high school and college and haven't picked it up, or I know one of our board members plays the clarinet in the band, and it's her clarinet from 5th grade or something like that she's held on to, which by the way was a long time ago, and now she plays it in this band. We have, they have more people than they can, gather in, and it's a great success story, I think.
And I think there's a huge social component to it as well. So a lot of people have met people. We're always looking for things that put the 2 towns together. So a lot of people have met different people, and after they practice, sometimes they go out and have a social time together. And they're having a blast, which is great.
And they also, interestingly, they practice, they rehearse, and perform actually out of the Independent Day School. So there's a private school in the community, but again, it provides us with really great space for that kind of thing. It is a beautiful theater.
And we've also because of that, maybe we've made a connection with the headmaster there, headmistress, the head of the school. Head of school.
Yeah. Who is one of our committee members.
Which is another, a resource we've developed from that experience.
That's great. So you also have another group that is also interested in music, except this group is interested in a more classical side of things, Kalmia Gardens, and they're also a grant recipient, and they provide a sustainable venue for classical music.
Correct.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what they offer for
So
programs?
this is a house in Middlefield. Tim Gassler, his daughter Leah Gassler, was actually approached by one of our board members because she played at the Durham Library, and she and her fellow musicians have degrees in classical music, and so the house is a beautiful farmhouse that's been renovated as like a music space, an art space, and they've for the past couple years they've put on 3, I think, different concerts, and there's 4 of them usually, maybe 5. There's a piano, there's a cello, a violin, a viola, and the space is set up with folding chairs and wine and cheese, and you can apply online, you can buy a ticket at the door. It's sold out once again, and it's a beautiful space, and the music is, I can't even describe it.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. The grant also, the Kalmia Gardens has plans for the future, and we're trying to sort of maybe in the future work with them to have an art space and to have, there's a farm there, and there's gardens, and then there's vegetables, and the idea of farm to table fundraisers or events, or renting the space, and kind of a cultural arts center almost, with a homey atmosphere. So we are having our semi-annual event there for the first time this year in May that we can talk about in a few minutes. So.
Sure. Right. And the event that you're talking about that you are going to have in the beautiful gardens?
Well, first we should say that the chamber music series, they actually are like the 3rd, 4th weekend in May, and our event, we have one major fundraiser each year. We do an annual appeal where we appeal to the community on an individual basis with our newsletter and things. But then we also have an event each year. One year we have a trivia bee, and then the following year we have a silent auction. So this year our silent auction is going to be for planters, and we're going to have a garden shop too, and we're actually holding it at Calmia Gardens on May 6th. And it really is a lovely spot to have that kind of event. And, you know, it's sort of, we have helped support them. They are providing us this opportunity.
Right.
We sort of look at it as a win-win sort of situation. And they are also, one of their audiences for the concerts is the members of the Middletown Garden Club. And so we hope to bring in and expose our event to some more people who might not otherwise know about it.
It's a great outlet for everybody.
Yes, it is.
That's wonderful. So another award that you give, and we talked about Howard in the beginning being the superintendent of schools and one of the founding members, is the Howard Kelly Award. Why don't you tell us how that award came about?
Well, I think Howard was just someone who everybody knew in the community, and one of the things that and here's again how we've evolved. When we first started 8 years ago, Merrill and the board members wanted to give out some kind of community service award, that supported education efforts. And we did have that kind of award, but when Howard passed away, I think we really felt that we wanted to honor him, and by honoring him, it's so easy to know the attributes that you're looking for and trying to honor. His wife, his widow Renee, is very involved in when we have the reception, and so what we do is we look to the community for nominations for somebody in the community who has sort of Howard's spirit of, it doesn't have to be being a teacher or an educator, although it has been, but supporting volunteerism in the community and sort of recognizing what a great and special community that we have. And I think we've given out 4.
Yeah.
We've given it out 4 times. We have the reception in December, sort of our holiday party
At Indian Springs.
And the greatest thing about this reception is that the previous winners always come and bring their family, and they see it as just something that they're so proud of.
It's a nice family event.
It is. It is.
It's great. So Talk of the Towns, it's a relatively new series that you are sponsoring. And how did the series come about?
I think that was one of our brainstorm ideas, and we started talking about how we all loved TED Talks. And then we started realizing that there were so many people in our community that were interesting and that we could tap to speak. So we kind of set up a format. We wanted it to be like a TED Talk. So there are 4 speakers, 10 minutes each. And then the requirement is they have to bring something visual while they speak. And then there's a break in between. So when we have it at Indian Springs, it's a great venue there. And there's a little intermission. Everybody, again, it's another bringing community people together. And then we sit back down and have 2 other talks. And then we usually have to ask people to leave when the venue closes because they're asking questions of the speakers and they're talking about everything.
And offering ideas for future speakers.
For future speakers. So a couple examples, we had a gentleman talk about his trip to China, and he was there during the Tiananmen Square uprising and actually witnessed it. We had 2 Egyptologists who came in their garb and showed slides of all of their unearthings. We had an ER doctor who talked about how the new concept in medicine is that patients should be more in charge of their own health, and that how doctors actually diagnose. And he showed us kind of a pyramid, how they actually process of elimination, but they mostly want to listen to patients, and sometimes patients don't speak up. We had a gentleman who followed volcanoes all around the world and showed some pictures of that. So really interesting people.
Very
and we
diverse
talked
and
about whether
very
we need
diverse.
to go to Yale and Wesley, and we thought, let's start with our community, and we try to make it very diverse. So
Yep.
that's
Right.
the committee meets, and we say, we've had authors, we've had,
Right.
so we try to have it, have a diverse group of speakers.
Right, that's nice that you can draw on the experiences and the talent of the
amazing.
community
And we
members.
haven't had
just
to
a
go
new
out
zone.
of Durham or Middlefield, and there's no end
There's
to
a
it
waiting
right
list.
now.
Oh, that's
There's
good.
no
Well,
end to it.
really, yeah.
Um,
So it's great.
It's amazing
Yeah.
what's in your own backyard sometimes.
Right.
Exactly.
That's
So-
terrific. So how do you get the word out about your programs and your grants?
Well, I'm going to we're coming into our grant cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I really think it's, important to, sort of talk about that, because really that's our next big thing, is to
Yeah.
give out our grants for this year.
So our grant cycle is, we're in it. The deadline is May 2nd, Monday, May 2nd. We do lots of things. We use the school system, actually, and we send out emails to our parent list and our faculty list. We mail flyers to businesses, local businesses and organizations. We put flyers around town. We have a press release that went into Patch and Town Times. One year, and I was just telling Betsy, I think we're going to try this again, we sat at Park on Main and just talked to people. We have some big roadside signs that we purchased last year, and we're going to put those up a
Like
couple years
sandwich board
before
signs.
the date. A lot of word of mouth also.
So what kind of programs are you looking for to give your grants
So
to?
we have a whole way that we evaluate. The committee reads all the grants, and then we come together with a kind of a checklist. So we're looking for things that fill in a perceived need in the community, something that's innovative and different, something that reaches a large group of people. We love it if it could be multi-generational. And then the grant process is, the application is very user-friendly. So we look at the overview of the grant, what's the project, what are the objectives. An important thing is how are you going to measure, how are you going to know that you achieved your objectives, and then the budget. And sometimes, we've been known to fund parts of a grant because we don't have limitless funds at this point, and then the recipient can find some other funds, and usually that happens. And one of the big things we look for also is sustainability, so that after we fund your project for a few years, can you sustain yourself?
If that's what you want to do.
And there are
right.
things like that, like the Go Far program that was originally a grant that are become part of the community. And this band I foresee is going to be that. I think Kalmia Gardens is going to be that. The composting at the Durham Fair is going to be that. And we feel very proud of the fact that we were the people who started that. We made it possible for them to start that great idea, and then it continues, the transition group. So there's a lot of things that are now embedded as part of the community. People might not know that originally they asked us for funds and we provided them. So.
Well, thank you for giving our community members an opportunity to realize their talents and giving them a way to be able to afford their dreams. So Nancy and Betsy, thank you very much for being here on Destination Durham tonight.
Thank you for asking us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, very much.
Thank you. That's all we have time for tonight. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to check us out on Facebook for any updates or for new reports. I'm Alicia Fonash-Willette. Have a great night, and see you around town.